Most of us know that humans have changed a lot of the natural landscape in Europe. But what would it look like before deforestation and agriculture started? What might it look like today if we weren't around? There are two main theories for what most of Europe would have looked like before humans started changing the landscape. One theory you might already know, as it's often thought to be what the natural world is supposed to look like. This is the suggestion that there was a huge, dense, closed canopy forest stretching across the whole of Europe, except for in some mountainous zones. There would have been some gaps when trees died or if a fire started, but these would quickly be filled because of succession and gap phase regeneration. Gap phase regeneration means another tree will fill any space made as light comes through the canopy, and it is a race to the top for young trees and anything living on these trees, like ivy. Succession means that land will transition through stages with grasses and shrubs into what's known as a climax community. In this closed canopy forest, if a fire breaks out, succession will occur and the land will eventually become forest again. Animals like roe deer and European bison would have roamed through this primeval forest and would have been hunted by other animals like lynx or wolves. However, there are some flaws in this first theory. One example of a flaw is that some trees, like oak or hazel, are unlikely to regenerate and grow in a closed canopy forest. However, these trees do grow in areas of scrubland, and there is evidence that these trees were growing at the time, and sometimes in large numbers. This, along with other issues with the closed canopy forest theory, has brought another theory into the debate. The book Grazing, Ecology and Forest History by Dutch ecologist Dr. Frans Vera puts this first theory of a continuous primeval forest to the test, concluding that herbivores have more of an effect on the landscape than previously thought. If this is true, then the landscape would resemble a mosaic of different habitats. With the combined forces of succession, grazing, and browsing herbivores causing rolling changes over time in the cyclical turnover of vegetations. Grassland turns into shrubland, and the shrubs then provide resistance from herbivores, allowing trees to grow in patches, forming forests in some areas, and these patches move around the landscape as forests die and regrow, opening up spaces for grassland again. Some areas would have had closed canopy forest, for example in areas where these large herbivores could not get to, like if there was water in the way or harsh terrain, whereas other areas with lots of herbivores would have had more open land and less trees and scrub. There are many factors to consider on both sides of the debate, and it's important not to ignore any factors. For example, the role predators play in the behaviour of herbivores. Many of these studies have drawn information from fossils, pollen diagrams, and even the current ecology of other places that still have large herbivores and predators, such as North America or Africa. So in answer to the question, what did Europe look like before we changed it? Well, we can't be sure, and it wouldn't have looked exactly the same across the whole continent, but it's likely to be somewhere between the two theories. It does get complicated if you dig deep into such a broad topic, but why is knowing what wild temperate Europe used to look like even important? Why is there so much discussion if it's all in the past? Conservation projects and wildlife reserves rely on knowing how to conserve species that are at threat, particularly with the changing climate. And so by understanding the environment that these species adapted into, we can better understand what they need to be saved. Just like how freshwater fish need freshwater lakes and rivers, the British swallowtail butterfly needs milk parsley plants. Another important question to consider is, should we be managing sites specifically for species at threat, such as the British Holocene? Or should we aim to conserve the landscape and ecological processes of an area? Some projects, such as the Knepp Estate in Sussex in England, have taken a rewilding approach to conservation, introducing free-roaming herbivores that act in place of those that would have previously roamed the landscape, facilitating ecological processes like seed dispersal. At Knepp, each species has a different role. So the longhorn cattle graze and browse vegetation and transport seeds through their hooves, fur, and even through their digestion, whereas the Tamworth pigs act in place of wild boar, which rootle and turn over ground and provide new opportunities for vegetation. I will also leave a link to their website below where you can read more about the species at Knepp. Rewilding is taking place in different forms in other areas of the UK too, with European bison being introduced to a site in Kent and beavers given the right to remain with their recent native status in England. The debate and conversation over what temperate Europe would have looked like is not over, but the research being done is already being used to develop and adapt ways of conserving nature. I really recommend reading some journal articles on the topic, looking at things that agree and disagree with Vera's hypothesis. Also related to this topic are the books Wilding and REBIRDING, which are really captivating to read, and I highly recommend them. So I hope you found this video interesting, and I definitely recommend reading more into the topic if you're interested, as I have only given an overview. I've also added my website to the description, where you can find anything from my social media links to the petitions that I went to support. Please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to my channel for more videos like this one, as well as some vlog type videos. So I'll see you in the next one.